There we go. Everything should be live. We're live, man.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. That's. I'm so grateful that you can spend some time with us.
Absolutely.
To get us warmed up, I was naturally stalking you before the interview, and I saw a picture on your Twitter of you just proposing to your fiancée.
Yeah.
That congratulations.
Yeah.
But I also see that Arnold Schwarzenegger is in the picture.
Yeah, he helped me do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you maybe start with that story? That would be great.
Sure. So my fiance, she's a personal trainer, and she really cares about the fitness space. And so her idol is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
So it was funny because she only likes two things, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Nike. And so I was working with the president of Nike to do a surprise, proposal there at the Nike headquarters in Oregon, because she's from Oregon.
Right.
So I was working on that for like 2 months, and we were planning this whole thing. And then all of a sudden, Arnold Schwarzenegger's director of his charity shows up at my office and says, "Hey, I need your help on this charity poker tournament." So I didn't know it was for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I just knew it was for a charity poker tournament.
Right.
So we're talking for half an hour, and she's like, I said, "Wait, this event isn't next week. Where is it?" She said, "Oh, it's at Arnold Schwarzenegger's house." I said, "Wait a minute. This charity poker tournament's at Arnold Schwarzenegger's house?" She said, "Yeah, it's very small. It's only 52 people. It's very expensive, so it's a very small crowd." I said, "No, it's 53 people. I'm coming." I tell her this whole idea. I said, "Can I propose at his house?" And the lady starts crying. And so we just hit it off.
Wow.
I helped her with her poker tournament. And then I never met Arnold before that moment. The moment you saw in the video of like the actual interaction, it was live.
Wow.
But he knew he had the ring in his pocket. Arnold had the ring in his pocket. And so we didn't rehearse anything. So he starts going to his spiel. And then in the video, you can see 3 different times I reach for the ring, and Arnold keeps talking. So he pulls it away from me to keep it.
That's amazing. I love that.
It was good. She had absolutely no idea. It was fun.
Wow. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, that totally beats my proposal to my wife now. So, but it's hard to top that, I think.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay. So, I have lots of questions for you. It's a really inspiring background you have, and I'm also very interested in your charity work and how you got into that. But can you maybe just give a short little background for the people watching, who you are, and also how you get started? Because you had success very early on, but I would love to know a little bit of backstory as well.
Sure. So when I was 17, I trademarked the catchphrase, "Who's your daddy?" For 300 different products. So the name had a very different meaning to different people. So some people thought of it sexually, some people thought of it as comedy, and some people thought of it for sports. And
Right.
so I marketed it for clothing, and I made it more for mainstream. So we never touched the sexual side of it. It was always about comedy and sports. And I got really lucky timing-wise, or I guess you put yourself in a position to get lucky. I went to every convention, and I accidentally met the head of Calvin Klein, and he went from being the president of Calvin Klein to the president of my company 6 months later.
Wow. How did you make that happen?
So he was bored, I guess. Like, he had been with Calvin Klein for many years, and his booth was right next door to my booth, and we were spending 4 days next to each other, and I could just see like he just felt bored. And my booth, we're all like 18-year-old kids with a bunch of models, and we're all like all excited, and the buyers from all these stores were buying from us right in front of him. So he saw we got into 6 department stores on our first 2 days of the convention.
Wow.
So he just saw there's fun, excitement, and so he said, "Oh, you should come see me in New York. I'm working on a couple different brands." He was working on FUBU, the ladies division. FUBU was very big back then. He was working with Sean John, but his core full-time job was the president of Calvin Klein. So he said, "Yeah, you should come see me in New York sometime." The convention ended on Sunday. I legitimately flew Monday morning to New York.
Nice.
There was no texting back then, so I just went to New York, and I showed up. I called them like, "Hey, I'm in New York. Let's." And so that led us to getting a really big licensing deal with Starter Apparel for $9.5 million when we were 18 years old.
Wow.
That helped everything because now we're in 6 department stores. We have a big licensing deal. So we were making a lot of mistakes in between then. Don't get me wrong. It's not all perfect, the perfect dreamland. But
No.
that helped fund the mistakes, and it helped us. It made it easier to get into other department stores when you have other department stores. It's
Yeah.
kind of like you have to have a credit card to get a credit card, or you got to be an attorney to get a good attorney job. They always want you to have 5 years experience, but
Yeah. Huh. And I mean, having that success at 18 this was your first kind of company, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How did that feel? I mean, that had to be some kind of a mind job, just having that apparent big success, but I'm sure there's a lot of things in the background that kind of goes through your head.
So it was always interesting because I was always the youngest guy in the room, and you have to understand the people's mentality when you're sitting with somebody who's 58 years old and they see an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old, 22, anything in the early 20s. There's always a bit of interest and excitement, and also skepticism and like pushback if you can actually pull off what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I try to remove the no's, meaning I try to say as many things that could make them not have a pushback right from the beginning.
Right.
So if I'm already in other department stores, you should feel comfortable being in your department store because they said yes. If I'm already shipping to those department stores, you should feel comfortable because I'm already doing that. So I would say a lot of things that were just being very clear, like we're already in these stores. And I did the same thing with the energy drink under the same brand name. I went and got in the first few weeks, as soon as the can was live, I went and made sure I was just in stores, take pictures and show, look, we're in 7-Elevens, we're in this store. Even if it was only 5 or 10 locations, then it became 50 to 100 locations. And then it became easy to go get thousands of locations.
Yeah, so some kind of a social proof and also a bit of authority there of known brands.
Because they're always scared. The adults are scared of losing their job.
Yeah.
So the buyer is scared to lose their job. The investor for a hedge fund is scared to lose their job. And they have a right to be scared. So they don't want to take a gamble when you're the young kid, right? But if they're right, they look like a superhero. So
right.
I just want to make sure I always did everything I could and worked relentlessly to make them right.
Cool. And did you always, I mean, that takes a lot of confidence, I would say, having meetings like that at that young age. Have you always kind of had that confidence in yourself, or was that something you had to kind of work on to go there?
Sure. So I was always confident because I was betting on myself and my work ethic, and I was relentless. And I think that's what I think that's where the confidence comes from. So I'm not cocky, I'm confident.
Right.
I don't think I'm better than anybody. I think I'm just going to outwork, not everybody, but I'm going to outwork everybody I have to. And there's people smarter, there's people faster, there's people with better product. My goal with the energy drink was never to be the #1 drink in the world. It was to be the best tasting. My goal with my online poker site, I was never going to be the biggest poker site in the world. I wanted to be the coolest poker site in the world. So I always look at products and things and not saying I'm going to be the best in the world or the biggest in the world. I'm going to be the best in a niche and do whatever I have to do, whatever I can control. That's where I think confidence comes from. Is I know confidently that I'm going to be relentless.
I like that. So I don't see a very natural step from clothing to energy drink. So how did you end up doing that and go and like transitioning over to that product?
Sure. So we had a lot of different licenses under that brand name, from barbecue sets and all different things. But the energy drink came up because there was 900 energy drinks on the market, and they all tasted like cough syrup because that main ingredient makes that thick taste.
Yeah.
And so I just saw a niche of what if I could create the best tasting one. And so I wasn't going to release a drink unless I could go find like the chemist from Gatorade. And so I got lucky because he happened to be living in Irvine, an hour from me. And I tracked him down. I met him at a restaurant, and we hit it off. And he said, okay, I'm going to do a test. I'm going to put out 41 different small cups. If you can find the drink that I think fits you, it's yours for 1 year. You can have it for 1 year, the license. And if you do more than 1 million in sales, we're in business together and you can have it in perpetuity. And as a bonus, you can also have the green tea energy drink that nobody else has.
Huh.
So absolutely, completely lucky. The first cup that I grab and my partner grab, we both taste, is a cranberry pineapple. And I said with absolute confidence, I said, this is the one I want. And his reaction was crazy because I thought maybe he'd made all of them the cranberry pineapple, but he wasn't. They were different. I just happened to grab that one, and it was complete sheer luck. And then when I was confident, I said, this is it. It can't get better than this. He got so happy. And he's a 73-year-old guy that got like an eighth of a penny off of every Gatorade ever. So he was already,
Yeah. He did more out of passion than kind of out of a business thing at that point.
Yeah. So we were 22 years old at the time. And then that one was not a licensing deal. That was the product itself. We didn't license it out. We manufactured it ourselves.
Right. And I mean, from being 18 with the clothes to the 22 and energy drinks, how did you structure your company differently? I mean, what did you learn from the first gig that kind of you took into the second one?
Sure. So the company stayed the same for all 10 years. It was always one licensing company that had these different products and brands, but it was all under the same name. So when we were 23 is when we took it public. That's when we decided we're going to take in a round of funding. So we raised $3.75 million. And that was to mostly focus on the energy drink itself. The clothing was already doing revenue. The clothing was already making money, and the licenses were already making money. So the money we were raising was just for the energy drink, to focus on that and marketing the overall brand.
Right.
And so structure-wise, it was all one and the same. It all got wrapped into the public company. Normally, when I have different products, every single one has its own corporation. Even if I throw a live event, not the elevator nights, not like the small ones, but if I throw a large one, like we threw the world's largest pizza festival, that had its own corporation.
And why is that?
For liability. So
right.
If something happens at the pizza festival and somebody breaks their leg, they don't sue me or the parent company. They can sue the corporation for the event.
Right.
Because that's obviously what happens at nightclubs is they get screwed up and somebody sues the parent company. So event organizers that do large scale events, they usually start a corporation for any major event.
Right. Okay, so you get the first you get funding, and I'm guessing you also then started to kind of make money yourself, right? And how did that change you and change the way you think of things and your work ethic and everything else? Kind of what kind of impact did that have?
Sure. So then it became like a game, like points, because I don't really spend on anything fun. Like all my friends, they all buy cars and jets and all that stuff. I have my obsession is buying pieces of other companies.
Right.
So, to me, it's all a game, and I think the game started really after the energy drink. Actually, after the poker site. So I wasn't investing until after the poker site. But along the way, I was never buying flashy cars. I was never buying flashy stuff. I was like, to me, it was all about business, and that was fun to me. That was exciting. The same way it's exciting for somebody to buy fancy Gucci shoes. I don't have fancy Gucci shoes. I want to buy a piece of a company, or I want to invest in myself or my business.
Right. I like that. Okay. So how did you? So first of all, you took the company public, right? And how was that experience? And I mean, how that must have been chaos.
Yeah. The hard part really is the extreme obsessive amount of paperwork that's involved. It's unreal because it's 2 years and $2 million worth of paperwork, and it's unavoidable. It's such a bogged down system because they're very protective of people, which is smart. But they make you go through some things that shouldn't take 3 months to wait for this and 6 months to wait for that. Some of those things are antiquated, but even though I went public a decade ago, the same still applies now. It still takes 2 years and $2 million.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was great to have a liquidity event that we could raise more and more capital, and anything we could do deals with stock. but the paperwork was insane. You had to do an 8K and a 10Q every single quarter. But it wasn't just that, which was, hundreds of pages each. It's that you then had to get audited, and then you had to do a self-auditing at the same time. And if anything didn't match up, then you did it was just every
Wow. Would you do the same thing again, or would you just kind of grow the company without getting that kind of a funding public?
Funding I definitely would do. Going public, just from an emotional perspective, I wouldn't, unless it was something really major, or I wasn't the one that had to sign off on every single accounting document. I don't mind taking responsibility for all business, sales, legal stuff. The accounting is so tedious because it's hundreds and hundreds of pages per quarter. And hundreds of pages doesn't sound like a lot, except it's not just reading, it's numbers. And did you spend $444 on your airline flight on January 22nd, 2004? You're like, that was, I don't know, right?
Right.
So it's very, very tedious. So, and if it was just up to the accountants, it'd be fine, but you actually have to sign off on it in detail. So
right.
Going public is definitely useful, but I would prefer if somebody else could be the
do all the signing and then the thinking. and from taking it public, when did you start your poker company, and what's that all about? And again, I think that's a weird closing things and then poker.
So basically, when I was 27, which was the 10-year anniversary from when I started Who's Your Daddy back in high school.
Yeah.
On the 10-year anniversary date, I resigned so I could put another feather in my cap. I wanted to start a poker site. I've been doing the same company for a decade, and I'd always loved poker. So I picked up and moved to Malta, which I've never even been to before.
How did you decide to Malta? Just because it's a big poker place, or
because that's where the gaming license options. You could either do Malta or Isle of Man. And Isle of Man is very boring.
Right.
And so my friends had told me about a building there where a lot of other poker and sports betting people and gaming people, casino people lived in the same building. So I legitimately I put on a backpack full of clothes and I flew to Malta with nothing, no plan of where I was going to live. I just booked a hotel room for 2 nights and then I was going to figure it out. I love that. I went there, I met with KPMG accounting and they set me up, and then I met with the gaming license people, and within 4 months I built an online poker site. We were live. It was, surreal.
that sounds surreal. And I mean, one thing is being crazy enough to just go down there without a plan and just start doing things. But how do you figure out what to do next? I mean, everything that you have described, that you have created, is pretty complex stuff, right? It's not just falling randomly into how things are going. So what's your process around that?
So I look for niches, or I look for weaknesses in business. So with the online poker space, the main reason I dove in, one was an emotional reason because I wanted the other feather in my cap. I wanted to do something else. Mm-hmm. But really I saw a void that another company called Bodog, they were the coolest poker site, and they switched all their focus to sports betting and stopped doing poker. And so you
saw a big opportunity then.
Right. So there was no cool poker site anymore. So I went and signed. My whole goal was to sign Dan Bilzerian, DJ Steve Aoki, Playboy Playmates, the young poker players. And that's what I did. And so I went and built the biggest poker team. Well, the second biggest poker team, sorry. And I built this team of all the cool kids and DJs and et cetera. And so that was my niche and that was my goal. And so really I looked at something like that where there was either bad tasting energy drinks or there wasn't a cool poker site. When I did hoverboards, I just saw that the hoverboards were $1,500 and $1,800. I could make one for $700 and add Bluetooth speaker systems and cool features. So if I look at things like that, okay, if I can make a hoverboard for half the price and have more features, that's a good niche, right? So I look at those scenarios along the way, and that's how I make my choices.
I like that. And that's also kind of when you got the poker site running. So first of all, I mean, suddenly you're surrounding yourself with kind of celebrities and influencers and stuff like that. I mean, how was that experience? That's very different from, I would say, very traditional business.
Sure. So I do that. I try to dive into the celebrity and influencer space because they're very useful for multiple things. One, obviously, their social presence and their reach and their voice is very useful because they have a megaphone. They can get information out to lots of people or make a brand famous quite quickly. The other thing is the buyers or the customers or the fans, they are enamored by celebrities and influencers. They love it.
Yeah.
And so if you're meeting with a retailer or if you're in a business where there's buyers and customers, them knowing your association with celebrities influencers make them want to be a part of that. And so I try to implement that into every company, whether I own it, I invest in it, whether it's a special event, my charities, I always try to incorporate influencers into that because it makes people want to be associated or part of it in some fashion. They just want to touch the cloth. They want to be.
That makes sense. And that's also kind of when the poker site started taking off. And what kind of marketing did you do, by the way, to get there? So obviously the influencers, but how did you get the word out?
Sure. So that's when social media was just really getting started. This was 2009, 2010. So we didn't have Instagram then. It was mostly Twitter and YouTube. We had Facebook as well, but not big Facebook fan pages. So it was really Twitter and YouTube. And so what we did was we filmed a lot of content. I hired 3 videographers, and we would film different things that would be viral videos. So Dan Bilzerian's blowing up an RV covered with the word Victory Poker on the side of it. And we'd film this video of him blowing it up. And that video would go viral, right? We would take models in the UK and in America and do a model search contest and model competitions, and then pick these and then attach them to the famous models. And then those girls would then all post on their Twitter, and we make YouTube videos. I mean, we had YouTube videos getting 6 million views. Doesn't sound like a lot nowadays, but back then,
that's crazy.
That's insane, right?
That'd be hundreds of millions of views in this day, yeah.
And that's without having a megaphone back then. That was just their Twitter and YouTube. They weren't posting on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
We would use that, but the biggest trick we did was I used our competitors' platform. What I mean by that is our competitors own their own poker TV shows, but I signed all the cool kids that they wanted to play on their TV shows because they could play these big poker games. So we would make them wear Victory Poker patches on their chest on the TV shows, and you're just staring at people for an hour at a time on a poker show. It's just staring like this, like the way we are now. Imagine if I had Victory Poker right here the whole time. Yeah. So some of the poker sites hated it. They were trying to fight it. Like, no, they can't wear the patch. I said, okay, they're not going to play.
Did you see like a traffic spike every time they then went on TV with the logo on?
Yeah. So what would happen is it's good is I would have them be playing in different cities around the world. Yeah. So I was going back and playing too. It was myself, Bilzerian, a bunch of the poker guys, even one of the Playboy Playmates. We all trained her to get really good, and she went and played on ESPN and Fox Sports. So there would be that initial spike right when the show was live, but then what's good is in poker, it always gets rerun.
Right.
So, we didn't spend any money on that. You know, most of the money we spent was on affiliates and
blowing cars up, naturally. I like that. And then, okay, so how did you then transition into doing angel investing?
Sure. So there was something called Black Friday where online poker was shut down. My 2 biggest competitors and the one right below me, they all got shut down on one day, in April 15th. It was called Black Friday. And that's because they were miscoding their credit card transactions. So if you put $500 on PokerStars, your credit card would say like mattresses.biz. if I put $200 on there, it would say like flowers.com. And so they were miscoding their transactions, which was illegal. They all got shut down. Luckily, you charged on mine. It said Victory Poker from Wells Fargo Bank. That was it. And so I went on the offensive when they got shut down, April 15th to April 19th. I paid back all 41,000 players on my site, and I went and did like 80-something interviews, and I just showed everybody, look, Wells Fargo, KPMG accounting, I paid every single person back, and that 4 days was a whirlwind of just showing that I was going to be the good guy in the space.
Yeah.
Some of my competitors still haven't paid people back 6 years later. So what that did for me was it was very expensive, obviously, to just shut your company down when it's worth 8 figures and pay back zillions of dollars to everybody. But I wanted to be able to sleep at night. I wanted to be clear cut. And that worked out because I started getting hired by land-based casinos in Las Vegas. And one of the biggest financial institutions in the world hired me to consult for them as well about the gaming space. So what I did was I never wanted to have all my eggs in one basket again. Mm-hmm. I lost my company overnight due to my competitors messing up, right? And technically I didn't have to shut down. I just didn't feel comfortable in the space anymore because these guys are all getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And so I started consulting for these other casinos, and I realized that I didn't want to have my eggs in one basket, and I started investing into startup companies.
How did you choose your first startup? I mean, did you already get approached by kind of startups and founders back then?
I was being approached a lot at the time. I just never did it because I was so obsessed with my own company, and I had blockers. I had to focus this way, tunnel vision.
Yeah.
But once I didn't have the full-time job anymore, I was just a consultant. I had a lot more time to help these other startups, and it was like I felt like the best decision. I felt like it gave me what I wanted, where I still got the fix. I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
But I also didn't have to have that full-time scenario anymore.
But and what was your first startup you invested in, and why did you decide to invest in them first?
Oh, what was my first one? I don't remember. I've done 27 now.
Yeah, of course.
My first favorite one was Dollar Beard Club.
Yeah.
The monthly box for beards.
That kind of blew up also, didn't it?
Yeah, that was crazy. So my partner and I...
Did it get so big by the time you invested in it, or did you...
I got in 5 months before we went live.
Wow. How did you decide to, invest in that then?
So my partner, Brandon, he has a big beard. And he met them at Super Bowl. And they saw each other and I like your beard. No, I like your beard. And they became beard friends.
Yeah.
And so we gave them a lot of advice and a lot of help and a lot of connections. We introduced them to Dan Bilzerian, who became a spokesman for them and do videos for them. My partner, he has 35 million followers on social media amongst his own accounts. And so in the first 2 days of going live, they got a bunch of press. We posted on all of our accounts, and they got over 10,800 members in the first 2 days.
I mean, what did the business plan say? I mean, what was the goal?
The goal was 2,000 members in the first year.
Right. So 5 times that in the just first few days.
So, which was actually a problem because we weren't prepared for it.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I mean, logistics and everything would be just chaos.
Luckily, in the monthly box space, you had time, right?
Yeah.
People don't expect you to ship it to them the next day like everything else. So we did have enough time, and we did pull it off. The guys are very impressive. And then Bilzerian posted a few months later, and he got them over 30,000 members with one post.
With one post?
It was just mind-blowing.
That's the power of influencer marketing right there.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah. So so when it took off, now they're at 28 million in revenue, and they never had to raise any more money. They never did the round.
That's crazy. And I mean, investing in 27 companies, how do you kind of manage to, or if you at all stay on top or kind of check in? I mean, how do you organize something like that?
Yeah, so check-in is once a month. On the first of each month, we ask them to just give us an update email. They don't have to make it long. They don't have to make it like some big overblown thing. But just an overview of what happened during the month. Good, bad, and ugly. I don't need fluff. Like I'd much rather know the bad stuff so I can help you. Don't hide it from us.
Yeah.
We're not gonna be mad at you. Like bad stuff happens in every startup, right? There's a lot of frustrating things, a lot of roller coasters. So we just try to be there, their support. Even sometimes they'll tell us stuff that they don't want to tell the other investors because they're scared of them or they're like the suits.
Yeah.
We're like the boys or the brothers that they can just confide in, and we're gonna help them get through it. And so we're very, very hands-on when it comes to that. And then whenever they need relationships, that's what we're there for. Like that's our biggest thing is that we can help them with skipping to the best in a scenario. Like who's the best warehouse? Who's the best manufacturer? Who's the best lawyer? Who's the best accountant? Who's the best web designer? Because I went through all the wrong ones along the way. So I think that's the biggest help. The marketing side is where we can help make them famouser. But really, the monthly updates that we ask from them is just to help them and stay on top of it. Even in their own minds, just spending the time to write 1 or 2 paragraphs, it helps them realize what's going on, good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a important thing to do running any business is to stop and think and reflect for a minute when you run like crazy. Okay, and you also wrote a book, right? Is that with your partner?
Yes.
Yeah. So why did you? In this is beautiful digital world. Yeah.
Why did I write a paper book?
Yeah.
So this is because I got bombarded with questions on how to get started on a business.
Right. So it was kind of a shortcut. You can just ask them to get the book instead.
I give out thousands and thousands of these books. Like I give away tens of thousands really over the last year and a half. Because I just want people to have the information and spread it out. We don't do this for profit, even though it converts really well. It's, to me, I don't even know the math on it. Like I know we've sold tens of thousands of copies, no, more than that. But we've also given away tens of thousands of copies.
Right.
So because I don't care, like I'm constantly ordering 1,000 or 2,000 copies a month just for events. And at every event, I'm giving out 200 copies, 100 copies, 200 copies. Where everybody else is trying to sell them. Nothing against them selling it, but this to me is more of like not charity work. It's more like my mission. Like I want entrepreneurs to have it. So
I like that. Did you enjoy writing it?
So the writing process I liked once I finally dove in. The hard part for a book is it sounds and feels overwhelming to write a book. And so what I finally did, what made it work where I could write the whole thing in 2 weekends, was I made the table of contents. Yeah. So once I made the table of contents, it made it easier to then write a subsection for each table of contents. So I wasn't saying I'm going to go write a book this weekend. I'm going to write this chapter. Right. And then once you start getting in the flow of a chapter, you write 2 chapters or 3 chapters. It's much less overwhelming to just write about how to set up a corporation. If I just said, hey, how to do a podcast, you could start talking about a podcast, right? But if I said write a whole podcast book, it's like...
I see. And your partner, I mean, I've written a couple of books as well, and writing with someone else is both great, but also a bit frustrating because, I mean, it's hard to find a common voice.
Sure.
So how did you guys organize that?
So I wrote the book. And then what I would do is I would have him overlook things and then add in or change or add on top of it. So I wrote it. He's a really good writer, but I was focusing on writing all about startups. And there were certain categories that he wanted to add his 2 cents into. And through the book, how do I say it? You don't really feel a difference because I took what he wanted me to put into it and I still wrote it.
Right. I see. And okay, interesting. So you're saying that your mission is kind of to help young entrepreneurs and young people to get started. And I mean, it looks like over in the US that's growing a lot, and here in Norway as well. You know, young entrepreneurs are getting more and more confidence to start things and start projects. But what are the common kind of mistakes, and what are the common advice you give young people that want to create something?
My number one advice is just get started, because 2018, it's so much cheaper to start a company now than it was back in my days. Like just 10 years ago, there was no iPhone. It didn't happen. There was no Instagram. I couldn't run Facebook ads. Like, we could start, if we came up with an idea right now for coolglasses.com, right? We could go buy coolglasses.com or a variation of that name for $10. We then can build it on WordPress or Shopify or ClickFunnels for $0 to a couple $100, right? On WordPress, it'll be free. If we want to build a fancy ClickFunnels site or Shopify site, spend a couple bucks. Shopify and ClickFunnels didn't exist half a decade ago, and even when they first started, it was nothing like it is now, where it's just drag and drop, plug and play, and they've already every A/B testing that they could do, they've already spent hundreds of millions of dollars figuring it out. So now you can build this ultimate website from your living room. Okay, so we're making coolglasses.com. We're dragging and dropping, building a website. We take some pictures of some cool glasses and we upload it. We then go to Alibaba.com and source cool glasses anywhere in the world. And then they can drop ship them for us through AliExpress. And by tomorrow morning, we've got a business together.
Yeah.
Coolglasses.com. That costs us under $1,000. Right? Like,
it's amazing. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so the first advice is just basically get started then.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what else?
And then to see if people care. So what happens is, the reason there's 900 energy drinks is people think that people care about a new drink, right? Red Bull, Monster, and Rockstar are always going to win because they're the biggest.
Yeah.
So if you're going to start something, you have to see people care. If you just start another energy drink, the same example, if you and I just said, hey, let's start coolenergydrinks.com, are people going to care? No, they're fine drinking Red Bull, Monster, and Rockstar unless we made a better mousetrap. Like, back what I did was the better flavor, right? But even that was hard, especially nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been 2 decades now of people just drinking Red Bull.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to start a product of another t-shirt company or another sweatshirt company or another whatever, you have to see people care before you spend a bunch of money. And a lot of times people only listen to their inner circle who all pump them up and say, yeah, you should start another headphone company or another t-shirt company. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Over 30,000 clothing lines are started each year.
It's crazy.
Less than 300 ever do more than 10 grand in sales.
And how do you check if people care?
So you have to utilize social media, which is absolutely free, or test on Facebook ads, which you can spend $40 and you can target a certain demographic that you think that they might care about. Let's call it the cool glasses. We can target the demographic of 22 to 38-year-old males in Norway that make X amount of money that follow other sunglass companies.
Mm-hmm.
I could never do that back in the days. That would have cost me 50 grand, 100 grand, and buying magazine ads and radio ads.
Yeah.
You figure it out with $40 now and see, does anybody click on it? Does anybody care about some new cool glasses?
But at the same time, and this is just my opinion, but so I agree, it's so much easier now than 15, 16, or even 5 years ago. But then, I mean, logically, it should be even better, more amazing companies. But it looks to me that because it's easier, people are taking more and more shortcuts and not kind of doing it the right way or really caring about the product or what they're trying to to solve, if you know what I mean.
Sure. So if you're creating something that's going to cure something or fill a void like Uber did or Uber and Lyft did,
mm-hmm.
That takes a longer process to see people care, because you know that they care, but then you have to build this huge beast, right? I mean, logistics.
Yeah.
Building something like Postmates for food delivery or Instacart for grocery delivery, these companies are raising hundreds of millions of dollars and they have no chance of being profitable for many years. That's a totally different mindset. The companies I'm talking about, you can't open a new restaurant for under $1,000. That's not the point of it for me. The point I'm trying to get to out to entrepreneurs is, if you're a real estate agent or you work at a restaurant and you want a side business, you can start your e-commerce business, you can start your shirt business, you can start your side hustle type companies without having big bankrolls. If you're going to go fill out and create a better speaker or a better headphone or a better something like that, or a functional jacket with portable phone chargers inside of it, those are different animals. And then you need, 50K, 100K, 200K, or whatever it is to start those. It's a much longer process. I think a lot of things that hold people back is they want to start that idea, but they just never start.
I totally agree. Okay, so last couple of questions. I'm not going to take too much more of your time, but I'm really curious around your charity. So how did you get into that, and why did you decide to go for the cause you chose?
Sure. So I was supporting a lot of other people's charities for years, and I would throw these charity poker tournaments or live events, and then I would give the money to a charity on a Sunday, and on Monday and for the rest of my life, I never heard from them because they got their check and who knows what happened.
Yeah.
And so I wanted a charity that I could see, feel, and touch. And so for about 7 months, I just kept racking my brain of how to make something that people could see, feel, and touch. And that's when I came up with the backpacks for homeless, because I could fill it up with 14 pounds of supplies. And I wanted to figure out how many things could I fit in there for $100. And so I reverse engineered what I wanted. I knew if I have a $100 bankroll and that had to include shipping, the backpack, and everything inside, what could I put into it? And I went and found the largest supplier of small goods in America. It was a warehouse a couple hours from where I lived. And I went and sat with them for days, and we just orchestrated this backpack. And then for another 5 months, I went and interviewed homeless people and military and asked them, if you were in the middle of the desert or if you were in the streets of Chicago, what would you want in this backpack? And then I just looked at what everybody said. The number one most requested item was socks.
Really?
I was always going to put socks, but I never knew it was like that big a deal. And the number two most requested item wasn't even on our list of 150. Duct tape.
Right. You can do anything with duct tape, right?
Right. I didn't even think about that. So basically, we engineered this backpack to have half of it food and drinks and half of it supplies. Like there's earplugs to help people sleep when they're on the street. There's eye mask. There's an eye mask so people could sleep on the street. So we have all these different items to help in any scenario, but then also basic items like the sleeping bag and a poncho and a watch, a game set to help them like just occupy their time. Some of them, or all of them, have the book obviously in it. Just for the last year and a half, the first 4 years didn't have it. And then the idea for the homeless is also for disaster victims, because Red Cross, it takes them an average of 11 days to actually deploy. And when a disaster happens, they need it on that day or the next day, right?
Right.
So my goal was to have enough backpacks that if a disaster happened, I could ship immediately that day. I'm not as big as Red Cross or any of these type of huge corp companies because I don't raise money from the outside for overhead. I pay for all the overhead. So my staff is just my staff from my office, and they do it all for free. So the charity is a 0% charity, which is important to me. So all live events, all marketing, all everything, I pay for it. Not a penny that gets donated goes to anything else but the backpacks.
Right.
So for me, homelessness is something that's very curable. Like you look at San Francisco as the best example. You have the most billionaires in the world in a small little radius, a 1 hour radius of San Francisco, but you also have the most extreme homelessness, and they're stepping over homeless people everywhere. And there's all this violence and crime and drugs, and they keep complaining about it on social media, but these guys are zillionaires and billionaires, and even their staff makes, their secretaries make 6 figures a year. which you have to afford the rent there. But the idea is homelessness is curable. We can't cure a lot of, I don't know how to cure AIDS, even though somebody else is out there has created their version to cure it. I can't cure cancer, even though there's people out there doing it. And God bless them. I'm not the person for that. I wanted something that I could see, feel, and touch on the most basic human level. If I give somebody 14 pounds of supplies, they have something.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so last two questions. I would love to know more about your kind of morning habits, how you get started in the morning. I'm a big kind of a habit person myself, so I'm always curious to hear if you have any rituals.
So my main thing is when I first wake up, I don't grab my phone. I used to a lot, and it messed with my head because your eyes are still smoky and you're like, you're not processing right away.
Yeah.
So when I first wake up, I'm trying to just get into the day, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do that day, what's going to happen, before I start actually talking to Siri or talking to my phone about executing that.
Yeah.
Thinking about life. And then I have 2 dogs, a fiance, and the whole setup. I have to get everybody situated with what they're going to do for the day and get everybody all set up. So I try to do a lot of the personal stuff first. And then once I flip my phone over, then I dive in. I don't even go to the office for the first hour because I just want to catch up with everything there in my quiet place. Because once I walk in the office, the staff wants this.
Catch up on your phone, your pad, or your phone. Yeah.
I rarely use the laptop as much as I used to, just because the phone has become so functional. I like laptop for long form email and for long form things and things like this. But really, my phone is my number one tool for everything.
Interesting. I've been seeing more and more people doing that and saying that, and not, usually everyone brings your computer to the meetings, but now it's more and more kind of phones and other things.
Right.
That's interesting. Cool. Okay. So your charity, where can people find more information on that?
So it's modelcitizenfund.org.
Cool.
Model Citizen Fund has all the information. It shows videos and clips of the many years, and people can actually get the backpacks shipped right to them, to their home, so they can go give out the backpacks, or they can tell us what city. I wanted that so that, like I said, people could see, feel, and touch it themselves. If they have homelessness in Norway or they're in Philadelphia, it doesn't matter where they are. They can go give it out themselves, or they can say, hey, can you ship it to a homeless shelter or a teen abuse shelter or women's shelter in this city? And that's what we'll do.
I like that. It's amazing. Okay, Dan, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciated it. And thank you.
Sounds good.
Bye.